Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, there is a report, and I don't normally report on this kind of stuff because we're living with COVID, right? There's COVID at home, there's COVID in stores, there's COVID at work, there's COVID on cruise ships. And I don't normally comment on this, but when I see reports and first-hand accounts that are also being sent to me of some issues with the way they handled the COVID on board, I think it's only fair to bring it up and just let everyone know what's going on. So, a Carnival cruise ship, the Carnival Spirit, left Miami, I believe, on a way to Seattle through the Panama Canal and eventually on its way to Alaska, 18 days, and they had an outbreak on board. Now, Carnival is not saying how many people had COVID on board, but the passengers are saying it's well over 100. Some are saying it's 200 passengers, and that's not the concerning part to me. Because even the passengers are admitted, most people are asymptomatic or very mild symptoms. Okay, but it's the handling of the situation that some people are bringing up. Now, I will comment on a few of them that is going to happen. They say they couldn't reach anybody in the medical staff. They'd call and call and call and call and call and call. Well, if you're telling me there's 200 people on board who have COVID, not to mention other people who haven't got COVID but hear about COVID, how many people do you think are trying to call that 5-person staff on that cruise ship? And the doctor is not the one who's going to answer the phone. The nurses are trying to deal with the people who have COVID and make sure they're okay. They don't have a whole lot of people to man the phones 24 hours a day, like 50 people to answer phones. It's not a call center. It's a little medical center on a cruise ship that has, sometimes 3 to 5 people working there. You have to expect long delays. And so I can see that happening very easily, and I can see how frustrating that would be if you're worried or concerned and you wanted some answers. I could absolutely see how that's a concern, but I just wanted to explain the reasoning behind that possible delay. Also, waiting hours for your room service delivery. Okay, well, if there's 200 people in quarantine, every person who delivers that food has to be dressed and sanitized in all that hazmat kind of protection gear and everything. And then they have to go and deliver it. Say they can deliver 2, 3 at a time. You have 200 people. How long do you think that takes? Because everybody's ordering lunch, dinner, and supper, breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the same time. So it's going to take a while. Yes, and it is unfortunate. But they can't just suddenly, magically appear 500, here's 200, take 200 crew members, dress them all up in hazmat suits and deliver that meal that hour of the day. It's going to take a while if they have that big of an outbreak on board. That's when you have to have a little bit of patience. It's not your typical room service. A regular room service can take 40 to 55 minutes on a regular day. And other passengers are also ordering room service as well. So please take that into consideration if you're one of those people who are saying, well, it took 2 hours for my food to be delivered. There's a reasoning behind it. They don't have people running up to your room if you have COVID in a t-shirt. They're dressed with the gloves and the mask and everything. So, there. Now the things, though, that I am concerned about, some of the procedures I've heard on board. But before I get there, something I haven't done in a while. Hey, if you like this content, you like keeping up to date with all things cruising, from my cruises that I'm on currently to the cruises I'm going to in the future, to ship reviews, to the cruise news, and stories like this that might keep you informed if perhaps you catch COVID on a cruise ship or how to avoid COVID on a cruise ship, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you're let know whenever I put out a new video, which is pretty much every single day. And yeah, it doesn't cost a thing, but it'll keep you up to date, and it really, really does help the channel out a lot. Okay, some of the procedures I've heard about. For instance, when you have a quarantined section on the ship that no one's supposed to go down, it's closed. The doors are closed. It's blocked off. Passengers have shown photos of one of the doors opened and just a sign hanging there warning COVID area, do not enter. The door should not be open. That door should be closed at all times. That's a given. That should be a given. No one should accidentally wander down that hallway who doesn't have COVID. Another couple things that we've heard is that they posted on a wall down in the corridor and on some of the doors people's name and stateroom that they had COVID. A whole list of people. These people have COVID here. And I can see that the thought process behind it was, hey, if you know some of these people or they were your cabin mates or you ate with them, you might want to contact people and get tested or double check yourself as well. But you don't announce to everybody on the ship the names of people who have COVID. That's a privacy thing. That's their business, not other people's on the cruise ship. If you're going to do that, you might as well just go on the loudspeaker every morning and say, this person, this person, this person, and this person all tested positive. You might as well just do that, because it's the exact same thing. And if you wouldn't do that, you shouldn't put a public note on a board where people can read it. It's their privacy. It's their medical. That should not be done. So that's an error that I think that the crew on the Carnival Spirit should not have done. Also, the next thing is there is reports that people were sharing a cabin with somebody who tested positive. That person isolated, and when the person who is rooming with them said, hey, are you going to test me? They said, no, that's not necessary. So that person now has free roam of the cruise ship. And they're cabining, staying in the same stateroom with somebody who has tested positive for COVID. Tell me how that makes sense. To not at least test that person, and not only that, separate them. Either they have to quarantine together, or separate them and test the other person to make sure they don't have it. But no, they kept them in the same stateroom, one person positive, the other person not, didn't even test the other person, and they had free roam of the cruise ship. You know what happens? That's how you get hundreds of cases on cruise ships, and not just 3 or 4. When you do a procedure like that, that seems like the most common sense procedure out of anything. 2 people together, one person tests positive, isolate them both, test the other person, and if the other person's negative, then you can separate them and move them to another cabin. But you gotta do at least the test. I can't believe that was a thing that people are saying did not happen. So that is a big, big concern. And I know we're loosening restrictions and we're easing things, and I'm the happier for it. I'm glad I don't have to test to go back to Canada. I'm glad if we don't do a test on this cruise ship. If I don't feel any symptoms and I'm feeling good, if I feel sick, I will go tell people. I will be that person. I will step up and say, hey, I suddenly don't feel well. I'm in my cabin. Send somebody to test me. But man, you gotta do at least the bare minimum of procedures. And now the reports are that there's numerous people in Seattle quarantining in hotels until they test negative where they can fly home. And a lot of those people don't have insurance to cover the hotel. And the cruise line said, well, you know what? Normally it's the insurance that has to pay for this. But because of the amount of people who had COVID on this cruise, we're probably going to split the cost of the hotel with them. And if you notice, that's, for instance, I'm on Princess. Princess has Cruise with Confidence. which means if you test, they cover it. So that's one of the things you want to check out as well. Find out what your cruise line covers if you do test positive. Are they going to cover your hotel? What happens if it's not just 2 or 3 or 4 days? What happens if it's 10 to 20 days? Imagine the price of a hotel in Seattle for 20 days. Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go. I do not like to cover these kind of stories, but if I think some procedures are being broken, how do you not test somebody in the same cabin with somebody who tested positive? How do you not do that and still have them have free roam of the cruise ship? So far, all Carnival has said is that they've dealt with a number of cases and they have not answered any of the specific allegations on this cruise so far. But questions remain unanswered. Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Till next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.